So CM Punk isn't even on Raw at the moment, but when I sat down to do my video today, I had an idea in my head and I was like, well, that's what I want to talk about it. And wouldn't you know it, I just so happen to have a YouTube channel about wrestling. Let's talk about it. Because on Raw last night, it was the go-home show for the Clash at the Castle pay-per-view premium live event, where it's obviously going to be main evented by Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. And I am so pumped about this. I thought everything we did on Raw with them was fine. I thought the key card that Liv Morgan gave Dominic Mysterio was absolutely the highlight of the night. Now, at first, when Finn Balor pocketed the thing at the end of the show, just before the main event, I just thought it was meant to be a ha-ha funny because he had this cartoon look on his face. But now I'm thinking there's something to this, and obviously we all know the end game of this is that they're going to kick out Damian Priest from the Judgment Day and he's going to turn babyface. But I think there's more to that than at first I picked up on. What that is, I don't know. Maybe Liv Morgan and Finn Balor are working in cahoots, and Dominic Mysterio, I would imagine, is also working in cahoots, and JD McDonough does whatever Finn Balor says, so maybe they are going to boot him out, and then Rhea Ripley will come back, and they will wage war on everyone, and that's going to be super duper fun. However, focusing on this weekend's event, and look, we'll do a proper predictions video as well, so keep an eye out for that. But I cannot see any world where Drew McIntyre doesn't win that World Championship on Saturday night in front of his home people in his hometown, because remember, at Clash of the Castle 1, that was Wales. WWE pretended he was from Wales. He's most definitely not from Wales. But I don't think you want to piss off a bunch of hyped up Scottish people, right? I know there's going to be other people there, but Drew McIntyre is going to be more over than he ever has been. And to me, sometimes professional wrestling is at its best when we keep things simple. What do I say on What Culture Wrestling all the time and on here? 2 + 2 = potato when things don't make sense. Sometimes you want to go for that 2 + 2 = 4. And I know that Judgment Day had been banned from the match, which is why we did the Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre main event on Raw. I thought it was really, really good. 2 super duper professionals. So instantly people go, oh my gosh, well, they've done that because, of course, the real person that's going to interrupt here is CM Punk. Now, there's nothing wrong with CM Punk stopping Drew McIntyre from winning that title. He will be so booed, it will be a moment in time, and I would imagine that kind of momentum will then go to other shows. And man, we'll talk about lighting a fire under the feud of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Now, I don't know when CM Punk is going to be good to come back. He has been posting a lot of gym videos recently, so he's back training, which is always a good sign. But even if you do have something good to go at SummerSlam, I think you want that World Championship on the line. And I actually think Damian Priest losing that title is another catalyst for the Judgment Day going, excuse me, you yell at us on all these occasions and you couldn't even hold on to your championship. You know, it will work there. So I'm not saying that CM Punk may not be there. It wouldn't surprise me if Drew McIntyre wins the title and CM Punk kicks his ass. But the situation or the thing that I've come up with, I think is way more interesting and way more crazy and probably crap for that very reason, because I'm probably overbooking it. And that's what I wanted to get into right now. Because I do think CM Punk should screw Drew McIntyre out of that World Championship. Now, I know that makes me a hypocrite, but I just think one of them is going to have to win it when we get to the round 2 or maybe even the round 3. But depending on what the timelines are, maybe you can even do the first match. In fact, maybe that would be even better. In fact, you know, it would be even better. You do CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre the first match, maybe at SummerSlam, Hot WrestleMania, or wherever. Drew McIntyre wins, probably by cheating, because again, when he moves away from Scotland, we certainly have been heading in that direction. The CM Punk is a good guy and Drew McIntyre is the bad guy, although what I really like about this program is you can essentially sign with whoever the hell you want. But of course, the pay-per-view premium live event in between all of this is Money in the Bank. And I think this year we have to do something interesting with Money in the Bank, just because otherwise it kind of blurs into other years, which is why I'm always going to be a huge advocate for somebody saying I'm going after the Intercontinental title, I'm going after the US title, whatever it may be. I understand logistically it makes no sense, because as soon as you say, well, I'm not going after the world title, people are like, what the hell is wrong with you, you goober? But that is up for the creative team to figure it out. You have to give somebody a reason. Maybe it's a personal grudge. For example, Sheamus is in Money in the Bank this year. And if Sheamus won it and said, oh, I'm going after the IC title, his story is right there. I've won all these other championships in WWE. And even though I've been here for 15 years, I've never been IC champion. And that's why I want to go after it. No one's going to go, oh, you're such a loser. That's just a nice cherry on top of a gimmick that has been around for a long ass time. So you always want to change it up. Now, I don't think Sheamus is going to become Mr. Money in the Bank, but whoever does, I think that is when CM Punk should attack, right? So who knows when it could be? Maybe it would be at SummerSlam. Maybe it's post-SummerSlam. Maybe it's pre-SummerSlam. But whoever is Mr. Money in the Bank, they should choose. So basically, we redo what we did at WrestleMania. Look at me tripping up over my own words. And Drew McIntyre has just won some kind of a match, and then it's CM Punk that boots him in the balls, that hits him with a chair, that gives him a GTS when he wasn't meant to give him a GTS. That's when Drew loses the title. Once again, he can blame CM Punk, because it would mean, and this is the dramatic irony I love with it, Drew McIntyre will have lost his World Championship due to the last 2 Money in in the Bank winners. Now, again, I kind of fall into hypocritical territory there because I just said
we should be doing something new with Money in the Bank.
But ironically, there is something new. The old thing that we're doing there becomes a new thing because I don't think anybody has ever been screwed over this soon over their 2 world championships. And that's when you get the heat. And that's when you get the, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did this to Drew McIntyre. Or, CM Punk, you're hilarious. Again, whichever side of the fence you sit on. And it doesn't take away from what should be a good moment in Glasgow, right? That's the big old thing. I think when we go to Scotland, those people should just be allowed to, well, Drew should have it as well, right? The Scottish fans and whoever's there should be allowed it because sometimes you just want to see your hometown hero do well, especially when you can have a screw job. If you want a screw job later down the line. But also, Drew McIntyre was the guy, I know it's old hat now, but we should still talk about it, who won his first ever WWE title from Brock Lesnar in a warehouse at WrestleMania 36. And I always like to think that we can bring balance to the force, and if life kicks your ass, even by accident, eventually it will double back round, and you can have your moment, and that is his moment. Like, the original Clash at the Castle was really good. I was there live. I had a great time. The debut of Solo Sikoa, really well done. But I think this time, given that Drew McIntyre isn't a main event he can win, I understand why we didn't do against Roman Reigns. Bless Damian Priest, he's flipping brilliant, but he's just not held in the same regard by WWE. He's just not. So he can lose that championship. Drew McIntyre can win that championship, and you can still do something with Punk afterwards. But I think, to use wrestling vernacular, he deserves that moment, and the Scottish fans deserve that moment as well. Again, I keep saying Scottish fans, but obviously there's going to be a bunch of people from Europe there, but they'll all be leaning heavily towards Drew McIntyre. And if you're a non-Scot and you're going to boo Drew McIntyre, somebody's probably going to just absolutely annihilate you. Of course, I am kidding. But that's what I think we should do. I think we should give someone the Money in the Bank. They should then become champion, well, that's always good. We also have to do it a lot quicker than Damian Priest did it. I mean, he held it for, 7 or 8 months with that briefcase. And then you can go the other way and make sure whoever wins the women's Money in the Bank, they hold on to that briefcase, because my gosh, when you go through the held records, it's not the right term, but anytime somebody gets that briefcase, they lose it so damn fast. So we can flip the switch here, what I actually think will help as well. But yeah, Money in the Bank winner, screws over Drew, courtesy of CM Punk. And then again, maybe we've done one match, maybe that is the justification for the second match, whatever, I don't care. That's up for WWE to figure it out. And I just think it would add so much, well, extra hatred to the whole thing. I know personally that I would love it, but I'm very excited about this. I think CM Punk vanishing from TV, I mean, aside to rehab his injury, has been very, very intentional. And even Drew McIntyre said during his opening promo, when people were chanting CM Punk, I ain't worrying about that right now. And you always say those words before a fall. But the Drew McIntyre character in 2024 is so damn good. It's the best that he ever has been. Obviously, he re-signed his new contract, and he's probably a smart old guy. When he is a smart old guy, if you're in negotiations, I don't see why you wouldn't go, you know, you're doing this pay-per-view in Scotland. Can we just come to agreement now on the creative? There's nothing wrong with that. He gets to have something he'll remember for the rest of his life. Because again, while swerves and tricks and screw jobs are always fun when they're done with everybody involved and not an actually screwing somebody over, you want to make sure people have things to remember once they have to retire. Because again, you're a long time retired. So very, very excited about this. And I think Clash of the Castle itself looks pretty good on paper. Apart from the tag team matches, I don't know if we're doing any, the DIY match maybe on their DIY taking on Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. That's been heavily teased on SmackDown. But I just did not understand, and that could be me, right? I'm an idiot. I'm well aware of this. But the Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark versus Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. Look, it's not, none of this is Isla Dawn and Alba Fire's fault, right? They're clearly very talented wrestlers, otherwise they never would have made it to WWE. But if you were going to write them down on a piece of paper in terms of their hierarchical position right now, they would be third. So they turn up to take on Zoe and Shayna, who I love as a team, by the way, and they just lose in 2 minutes, especially after we told the story of, oh, Shayna's leg is bad. Now, I understand that Baszler lost at the pay-per-view, the NXT one, so you may want to give her win back. And I also love the fact that we're putting Isla and Alba in this match because, again, it's from Scotland. I always like to think about the human side of wrestling because that's super duper important. They are actually humans, if you can believe it. So there are elements to make me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. But from being a nerd and putting my nerd hat on when it comes to booking, and again, what do I know? Absolutely nothing. Even if they did go and win at Clash at the Castle, I'd still be like, well, now it just feels like a fluke because either you haven't appeared on the show or you've been beaten and beaten and beaten. There is a small part of me that thinks that's why they did this, because they don't want to beat Jade and Bianca, right? They are not going to get pinned or submitted. So you could have them beat a Zoe Stark or a Shayna Baszler, but then I don't know how that helps them either. And they're kind of a tag team that's lost in the shovel too. And it's not just the women's tag belts. The Awesome Truth beat AOP on Raw, which again I love because I really, really enjoy the Miz and R-Truth, but I don't understand how that works for the Xavier Woods Karrion Kross storyline, which I'm really enjoying. And also because that story is actually more interesting, those belts kind of fade away into the background. And before the last couple of weeks, I would have said the same for the SmackDown belts as well, but the last couple of weeks of DIY has actually been really good. It's why I'm never a fan of separating the belts and having a Raw one and a SmackDown one, especially when it comes to tag teams, because the division is actually pretty deep. But if we're not going to tell stories, which again, why I like the New Day and Final Testament stuff, but if we're not going to tell stories that aren't solely specifically focused on the belts, then all of a sudden you do have a little bit of a problem. Although I guess you could argue that's why I have two sets of belts. I don't know. I just don't like it, but I feel that way with the World Championships as well. So that was the strange part of Raw to me. But again, it would all change depending what they do in a few days' time. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. And otherwise, the Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, Maxine Dupree, Otis, Alpha Academy stuff is just absolutely brilliant. I was genuinely laughing in a good way when Chad Gable is trying to tell Sami Zayn, look, they're happy, all right? You putting your business in my business. It's none of business of yours. And like Sami's like, do they look happy? And the camera focused on Maxine Dupree especially, who just looks miserable. And also, we took the last, 4 years of WWE TV to justify why Otis is being the way that he's being. He lost Mandy Rose. He called her his peach. He lost Tucky, which of course Tucker. He lost his Money in the Bank briefcase. So thank goodness that actually had some consequences. And it was Chad Gable that basically was there for him and picked him up and dusted him off. And now he doesn't want to portray him. And the camera work was super good in the Sami Zayn Otis match, because after it was done and Chad Gable had jumped Sami Zayn, we went corner to corner. So when Otis rushed these two, he could have hit Chad Gable. It was Chad Gable that had to get out the way. And then look, he finished off Sami Zayn with the world's strongest slam, but he was also going to attack Gable until he decided not to. And Chad sold that wonderfully as well. And that's a cool thing. Again, I don't want to predict too much here because I want to save that for a separate video. But I am convinced that Chad Gable will walk away with the Intercontinental Championship because of something that Otis does. Is it a mistake? Is it on purpose? Are we going to elongate this? We don't know. But again, in terms of a Raw segment, super duper good. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. As I did, Bron Breakker versus Ilya Dragunov. There's no point getting into the weeds about this. They are two young up-and-comers. They put on a great match. They forgot what wrestling was and just beat the absolute crap out of each other, which was crazy. And Bron just beat him with 3 spears. That's why I love this Ilya Dragunov, and it's something that WWE and all wrestling companies should do more, because Ilya's whole thing is, oh man, I suffer and I struggle, but then I find the breath of the dragon or whatever, and I find a way to win. He just lost here to Bron Breakker, but it didn't make me go, you're a loser, you idiot, because he got pulverized with 3 spears and thrown into the side of Alan the announce table. It wasn't his night. That's all it was. It wasn't his night, and man, it helps Bron Breakker so much, especially because later on, not only did he spear Ilya Dragunov into a box-like structure, but he took Ricochet, he lawn darted him into a production truck. Ricochet fell on the concrete floor. People said he was wearing some kind of padding. Either way, would you want to do that? No. And then he did get thrown through some glass on a car, the windscreen, Crimea River. Ricochet gets taken away in a local medical facility wagon. Samantha Irvin goes with him, who's his real-life fiance. We push it hard. Ricochet does the thumbs up. He has been written off of WWE TV, because if we believe the rumors, did a video about this on Sunday. Please do check it out. Hopefully I remember to put a card up there. He is off to AEW, I would imagine, or at least he's not re-signing with WWE. And the crazies are out and about. I'm just going to call you the crazies because it is. People are personally offended by this. It's just a man getting to the end of his contract, shaking hands with them, and he wants to go ply his trade somewhere else. Good for him. Don't come in my house and tell me that Ricochet isn't a top tier talent, because it is. All these people have been tweeting me, cheap plug at Simon316, on Threads and Instagram too, going, oh yeah, but he's well on the microphone. I'm sorry that you're allowed to have that opinion. That's perfectly fine. But in 2024, some people are really good at wrestling because they're just good talkers. Some people are really good at wrestling because they're just good wrestlers. Don't all of a sudden act out like everyone is this all-round home run talent. That's absolute nonsense. Ricochet changed the game when it came to high flying. Go listen to people like Will Ospreay talk about him, right? Everyone talks about him like he's the second coming of Rey Mysterio, essentially, which is an incredible thing to say. And I still think he had an amazing career in WWE. I really, really do. I think we're overthinking this. NXT totally smashed it, won titles all over the place, never had a bad performance. On the main roster, I mean, Vince McMahon never really got him, gave him the pew in his entrance theme, but still able to win championships. I'm pretty sure he was a US champion, he was a tag champion, he was an IC champion. He had a bunch of good matches. He never let himself down from an in-ring point of view. He just had a natural ceiling there, and you can argue whether it was the right ceiling and you can argue whether it was the wrong ceiling, but I'm sure he got paid a lot of money and he was a featured talent. But if now he thinks, hey man, I can do better than this, I can go somewhere else and main event and remind people who the flub Ricochet is, I got no problem with that. That's it. That's the beginning and the end of the conversation. And even if he does re-sign with WWE, good for him. I just want him to get all of his money, and I want him to go out there, and I want him to be as happy as he possibly can, because if you don't think that way, you're nuts. It's true. Go get a real problem. I beg you to go and get a real problem, because this is not a real problem. And if he does turn up in AEW, that's awesome. Jumping ship is the best thing. And then sure, if Ricky Starks go to WWE, awesome. Jumping ship is the best thing. I love it. I loved it when Sasha Mercedes Moné started to go to AEW, because you see her in the presentation world of All Elite Wrestling. Like, well, this is just so damn weird. It's like when Cody came back at WrestleMania 38, and I'd seen Cody in WWE before. I was like, but that's the AEW guy. Both companies help each other. And yes, WWE is number one, but I don't have to worry about that. I'm just a fan. I just love wrestling. And if Ricochet's contract has come up, meaning he could probably debut soon, put him on Dynamite on Wednesday. I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but I would totally love it. But I think all of this is exciting, and more power to Ricochet for making a decision and going out there and just living his life. And I'm going to walk into, again, contradictory territory here. But people are going, how dare he do that to Samantha Irvin? You don't know what their relationship is like. I'm pretty sure they're both strong enough and adult enough to accept that you're going to be on this side, I'm going to be on that side. I mean, look at Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews, right? Loads of people are doing this. Lena Vega and Malachi Black. I don't want to keep going down this road because I think that's their personal life. Maybe they decided our relationship is so strong, we don't need to see each other that much. That's actually the sign of a really good relationship. Why the flub are we talking about this? But yes, ultimately, that's where I kind of think the WWE sits at the moment. And SmackDown has been pretty good too. Very excited about this Bloodline stuff. It sounds like Jacob Fatu is going to come in soon. Hikuleo is going to come in soon from New Japan. I have to imagine that Roman Reigns is coming back for SummerSlam. August is way too far away. We are going to peak that storyline and miss the peak if we don't do it soon. And then we're going to have just this OG versus New G Bloodline storyline. Paul Heyman's doing great work. I think Kevin Owens is now taking on Solo Sikoa at Clash of the Castle. That would be a banger of a match too. He's totally going to get flubbed over. And the AJ Styles Cody stuff, I really like the uniqueness of it, because the structure in professional wrestling is you have a feud, you let it go, you have another feud, you move on, blah, blah. This time we had a middle feud of Logan Paul in Saudi Arabia, and AJ went, no, I'm not done with you, damn it. And I think if you were going to do it, this makes sense, because Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest is going to main event. Of course it should. You are going to absolutely ruin that card if you don't have that on last. So having a third match or a fourth match of AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes in an I Quit match, I'm not going to get mad at it. I do agree with some of the criticisms. I don't actually agree with the criticisms myself, but I understand the point that people are making when they're like, by now, Cody should be deep invested in a mega feud like Roman was. Yeah, he probably would be. But he's amazing, and I love AJ Styles, so I've got no problem with it. And don't forget, we could do what we did in 1999. Remember all of that? I think The Miz did it too. And The Rock and Mankind's I Quit match, the Royal Rumble, and The Rock had taken pre-tape, whatever you want to call it, a recording of Mick Foley saying, I quit, and he stuck the microphone in his face, and someone pushed play, I suppose, and you heard, I quit. And honestly, back then, it was so obviously a tape, and everyone believed it. In today's age, AJ Styles doesn't even need to get Cody Rhodes to say it. He can go and use AI. Now, I want no story that is based on someone using AI to modulate their voice. But listen, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be flipping WWE. So I'm very excited about the weekend. I think it's going to be awesome. And I really enjoyed this Raw. Like, it is 3 hours long. And sometimes when it just sort of breeze by, I'm like, oh, that's nice. Because again, it's 3 hours long. But as always, I need to know what you thought about the show. And you can do that by dropping me a comment below. You can also like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Notification bell, ding, ding. So the videos are going live. There's a video on screen right now. You can click that because YouTube loves it the most. Otherwise, it is GorillaMind.com/Simon. Use code Simon to get 10% off. I just love these supplements, and I'm happy to be affiliated with them. So if you are into lifting weights like I am, I highly suggest you try them out. They're worldwide shipping too. Otherwise, it's patreon.com/Simon316. Simon316 on all social media. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller on Cameo. Father's Day in the UK is this Sunday. I'll say nice words to your dad. That's a weird thing to say. Get a wrestling t-shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller. Same with Samson Athletics. Otherwise, let's keep enjoying wrestling. Don't do that with your voice because it's annoying. I'll see you soon.